Ready to go live. Okay, so we're now live. We're here. This is Dan Cerrucci. I'm with Christine Flowers. This is our Sunday night on Facebook, and we are here with Rick Short and Nicole Nance. And we're going to be talking about, among other things, uh, critical race theory. And the first thing I want to do is I just want to go on Facebook and make sure we're showing up there. I always like to double check and make sure we are appearing. And sure enough, there we are. We are live on Facebook. So, Christine, I'll begin with you and ask, how's it going so far, Christine? I haven't seen you. Let's see. I saw you last week for our interview with Chuck Peruno. How was your week?
Oh, it was fantastic, Danny. I met one of your good friends, Kathy, at a bridal shower that I went to. And, normally a bridal shower is nice and celebratory and fun. But there was such a wonderful feeling at this one because it was the very, very first celebration that I've been to since the COVID restrictions were lifted. And say what you will, having virtual affairs might have been a lifeline for some people during the heart of the pandemic, but there is no substitute for being in the same airspace as people that you love, friends, community. There's just something very, very special. So I'm
Right.
in a very good mood because I went to an Italian bridal shower. So you, Dan Cerrucci, Italian par excellence, understand that means that I will not be able to eat another bite for about 2.5 weeks.
I'm sure it was great. And I know Kathy lives across the hall from me. So
She
she's,
loves you. And you know who she
oh,
loves more than you?
pardon me?
You know who she loves even more than you? Who she adores?
I don't know.
I think you might know her. Her name is Carol. And she
Oh,
has
my
a
wife.
your
Well,
wife.
most people adore Carol more than me. I mean, she's much more popular than me, and
Yeah, she's
she's
very well loved.
yeah, no, I can't compete with her. I really can't compete with her. Okay, so we've got Rick Short and Nicole Nance, and um, Nicole is a candidate for Cherry Hill Town Council in Cherry Hill. She's been active in politics for a while now. Nicole, tell us how you came to this point.
First of all, thank you, Dan, for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Hi, Christine, and
Hi,
of course,
Nicole.
hi,
Thanks
Rick.
so much for coming on.
Thank you. Um, how did I get here? That's a good question. Really, through lots of prayer and counsel. Um, I've been a community advocate for more than 3 decades, so it kind of just made sense for me to go this route. I ran for office 3 times before for Camden County, formerly freeholder, now commissioner. And then since moving to Cherry Hill last year, I thought being involved more locally for a campaign was the best fit for me. So that's how I kind of how it came about.
So you've run before as a Republican, Nicole,
Yes.
and as you can imagine, Christine, to run as a Republican in Camden County, which is under firm machine rule, one party machine rule, you really have to be courageous.
It sounds like Nicole is, and I agree with you, Dan. It's very similar to Philadelphia, unless the stars align in a very special way for you. No non-Democrat, no Republican, or no other third-party candidate has a chance because people are so entrenched. I think it's part of the machine, but also I think people their default position in these urban centers is vote for the Democrat. And I spoke with someone earlier this week about that. She is African American, and I said, why is there the knee jerk reaction among so many women, immigrant groups, and minority groups to vote for the Democratic Party? when a lot of times it's really just a lot of lip service. And she said something very revelatory, I think. She said, it's true. And we understand that there's a lot of lip service. But as between two bad choices, we'll take the choice of the people that are saying the things that we want to hear, as opposed to the people who are not saying the things that we want to hear, because we don't believe either party is going to do what they say they're going to do anyway, or rather, we don't believe that they're actually going to make any substantial change for the better for us. So, I give a lot of credit to Nicole, and I hope that this time she will be successful, because she sounds like she's bringing some very important things to the table.
The people don't want to be challenged, and one of the things that I've been trying to point out, Nicole, is that we've had one party rule here in Cherry Hill. I don't think most people realize that we've had one party rule, iron rule of the Democrat Party for 40 years now. 40 years. And this does not really encourage democracy. And we should have at least one or two people on the town council that are not of the same party. Does it make any sense, Nicole?
No, it doesn't make sense, Dan. And you're right. You're right. That is democracy in essence. So my running mates and I are looking to change that, and that's why we're running. We want to change that because we do believe in the true definition and true sense of democracy. But even if it was all Republican rule, it still would be wrong. One party rule is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, there's no challenge to the powers that be here. Rick, you followed the council meetings. Most things are done on what would it be, a 7-0 party line vote? Is that how many is on your 7 on the council? It's just like routine. It's just like rubber stamping. The council meeting is pre-programmed even before they call it to order. There's a series of resolutions. It's a flat out 7-0 vote. And there's no challenge usually. I don't even know if the meetings are very well attended. Rick, what do you say on that?
Well, there's certain issues that come up in the town of Cherry Hill that are controversial, and what happens is they just drag on for meeting after meeting, and then most of the time that opposition loses.
So they keep dragging it on and postponing it or continuing it, and people get worn down, and then eventually the powers that be do what they were going to do all along.
Correct.
Because you see, Christine, there's no dissenting voice on the council itself. So at least in Philadelphia, Christine, as you know, the city charter, the city of Philadelphia requires a certain number of members of the opposite party have to be seated. I don't know, how many is it? Do you know, Christine?
I think it was 2, but I have to say something to that. It doesn't say. Opposing party doesn't necessarily mean Republican. So while there is a majority of Democrats, there's actually a supermajority of Democrats right now, because the 2 at-large seats that were dedicated to the minority party, whatever that be, one of those, or 2 of those, I believe, have now been taken over by what's called the Working Families Party, which is not the Democrat, and obviously it's not the Republican, but it is an even more radical, liberal party than the Democrats. And 2 people won slots on city council in the Working Families Party.
Oh my Lord.
So that now means, I believe there's 1 Republican on council. There's David O. I'm trying to think if there's another one. Honestly, I don't believe there is. So you've got Brian O'Neill. You've got essentially 99.9% of the people who are on city council are either Democrats or uber Democrats, meaning they are so progressive they couldn't even find a home in the Democrat Party, even as currently constituted.
Brian O'Neill is elected outright. He's not one of the
Right,
the-
he's in a district. So
he's in a district that
David
he's
O is is
Northeast
the
Philly,
outlaw.
isn't it? Northeast Philly, far northeast.
Who?
Brian O'Neill.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
That's what I thought.
Right.
That's what I thought. Now, Rick, you have been a sort of gadfly there in Cherry Hill. What motivated you to stand up and take on some of these powers, and lately the school board as well? But what has motivated you to keep at this, Rick?
Dan, if there's a topic and I can prove it wrong, I will drive whatever government agency there is. I will drive them nuts, because if it doesn't make any sense, then it shouldn't be happening. You know, time and time again. You can talk about school security. I mean, I talked about school security for 4 years, and then 2 years before I talked about it, they had a big explosion after Parkland. You know, everybody was worried about security, and I've been talking about it for 2 years before that. So you can almost predict the next fiasco coming from Cherry Hill.
That you've actually been ahead of the curve.
Yes.
I would think that, Christine, I would think that if somebody was, okay, the person's a critic, but they're raising important questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
They may be getting under your skin. You're a public official. They may be getting under your skin, but wouldn't it sort of be wise to bring them into the fold, rather than continue to see them as an antagonist? Christine.
You would think so. You would think that you want to have some kind of common ground and compromise, or even at the very least, just listen to what the person is saying. Give them a fair hearing, even if you don't agree with them, even if you don't want to try and compromise. Because when you shut people down, when you censor them, it makes them stronger. It gives them power, because other people see what you're doing and they want to hear what that silenced voice is trying to say. And we see that over and over and over again. And unfortunately, I am going to say this, I truly believe that the Democrats are much more expert at shutting down conversation and exchanges than the Republicans, because I can on one hand I can shoot off the names of pro-choice Republicans that I know that are in the party, that are engaged in the party, including your former governor, Chrissy Todd Whitman. And yet I cannot for the life of me find one truly pro-life Democrat that is unabashedly pro-life down the line who has any kind of power. And don't tell me Bob Casey Jr., my senator.
Right.
He is not truly pro-life. He has straddled that line so many times. He's been neutralized, basically. So, I absolutely, to get back to your original point, it's better to engage, but I don't think people these days are equipped with the mental tools and acuity to be able to do that. They think it's easy to just stamp it down.
There's actually a lot more diversity of views in the Republican Party, because the Republican Party isn't so quick or effective in shutting people down.
Easily.
Whereas in the Democratic Party, and this seems to be the new cornerstone of progressivism, if you don't agree with us, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And the tactic is shaming. The tactic is the Orwellian process of rewriting history and repackaging it for the present. And I know we're going to talk about CRT later on in the program, and I think that that's another form of doing this, of repackaging history and changing the focus of history. So it's Orwellian. It's sort of the crucible kind of shunning and shaming, and it's really kind of chilling to see that that's the way that discourse has now been repackaged and reframed these days.
Nicole, I have to ask you, as an African American woman, do you get a lot of pushback from people wanting to know why you're in the Republican Party? Do they try to shame you and whatever? And how do you react to it if you do?
I do get a lot of pushback. Family, friends, strangers. Um, you know how I react? I react the way I was taught, and that is, I'm an American. I have the right to choose what I want. I have the right to choose whichever party I choose to run under. And I don't take it any further than that because anything else is not up for discussion. This is America. This is my choice. So if you choose to like my choice, great, wonderful. If you don't, this is America. That's your choice. It's not that deep. We make it deep, we make it complicated. It's as simple as that. And if you stick to those basic fundamental principles and values, we can alleviate a lot of rhetoric. We really can. It's a matter of choice. It's as simple as that. And I have gotten into some arguments with people before, and then I made up my mind. Why? That's not necessary. If I choose to go to ShopRite and not Apple, that's my choice. It's as simple as that. We don't have to make it that complicated.
I think it's just a very sensible answer. It's a very sensible answer, but we seem to be increasingly abandoning common sense. And that brings us to critical race theory, which seems to, Rick, completely fly in the face of common sense, in the face of what Dr. King preached when he said, I think people should be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. And he said that he wanted us to all work together to end racism. Now, as I understand critical race theory, I don't know, let's see if you understand it the same way, Rick. It says, in fact, we can't eliminate racism because it's baked in the cake.
Correct.
So, I mean,
my understanding of critical race theory, and I may be wrong on this, is that it's not a subject that's being taught in schools. It's more of a process, so that it is a way of repackaging and changing pedagogy and communication, the way that we teach science, the way that we teach math, the way that we teach social studies, English, languages, anything and everything that normally is just, you take it on its own terms, is now going to be sort of filtered through a different lens with a view to presenting these subjects in a way that makes us much more aware of any kind of racial angle, to the degree that sometimes we will be creating a racial angle that does not exist. For example, there is no racism in mathematics. Math is about as pure a discipline as you can possibly get. And yet I have heard some teachers stating that the way that math has traditionally been taught is it's not taking into consideration the experiences of minority children, whether they be African American, whether they be Hispanic, whether they be Asian, whether they be whatever, and that, for example, the problems, in geometry or in algebra or in trig, or however, sometimes when you have these word problems, Jimmy has 5 lemons and he goes to the store and loses 3 of the lemons and then buys 8 oranges. How much citrus does Jimmy have? Those old problems. They're saying,
right.
well, they're being, maybe Jimmy comes from a neighborhood where there is no fresh citrus, so he's not going to be able to understand this problem. And they're turning what is a purely mathematical issue into, a racial issue. So that's what CRT is. It's not
Right.
a topic that you're teaching.
That's a
It's
good
manner.
point. That's a good point, Christine. And Rick, you have seen at Cherry Hill, you suspect that critical race theory has in fact even permeated the math, the teaching of math.
Right, right. Just to piggyback Christine's statement, there is proof in a PowerPoint presentation that we are dumbing our students in Cherry Hill in the name of fairness and of to be equal for everyone. I mean, there was a presentation done at the PTA zone. It was a PowerPoint presentation. It went up in the air, and then they had the picture of Dr. Kinde's book right in it, saying that they're going to change the curriculum to make it more fair. It's totally absurd.
Well, tell us who Dr. Kinde is for people who may not know.
Well, he's like the guru of all critical race theory. The unfortunate thing is that our administration in Cherry Hill, they all worship this guy. It's to the point where we're recommended to read the book. We're also recommended to read a book of how white parents can use media to raise anti-racist kids. I mean, it has gone absurd in Cherry Hill about how they want to indoctrinate me as a parent to teach my children to be anti-racist, who are already anti-racist, because I wouldn't put up with anything from my kid that isn't anti-racist. So don't come telling me that I'm not anti-racist when I would not let my kids be anti-racist.
And the number of hate, what would you call them, hate crimes or whatever in Cherry Hill?
Yeah,
I would think an
that's another
infinitesimal number.
that's another thing. First it was the hate, all about how much hate there is in the world, and every day you drive up to Cherry Hill West, they have these anti-hate signs, and everything's about hate. But the odds of a hate crime occurring in Cherry Hill is 0.0000019. It's like they blow everything out of proportion. Everybody's racist. Everybody hates everybody when it's just the opposite. My neighbor, who is a person of color, I won't mention their name. They are the funnest family ever. They are the party hardiest, funnest family ever. I love them. Their parties are insane. So when I'm out back and they invite me over, I have to tell my wife, like, I'm going next door, come rescue me. I mean, they're just so much fun. So
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that Cherry Hill, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole, it seems to be one of the more diverse suburban communities in Camden County.
Dan, that's a good question based on a little bit of facts that I've read. It is diverse. I can't say if it's one of the more diverse or not within Camden County. It
Right.
has a small percentage of the African American community. I did some research a little while ago. It is still predominantly Caucasian. I mean, if 13% of the world, if I have my facts correct, is African American, or 23%, whatever, then you are going to live in a community that's probably more not diverse and more change. You'll have an opportunity for that, and more. There's more of an opportunity for that than not.
Hmm.
And
How
we're
do you
great.
how do you feel about a theory that says, directing this to Nicole, that says racism is systemic. It's part of the system. There's not an awful lot you can do about it. In fact, there's virtually nothing you can do about it. And white people are inevitably going to be the oppressors, and people of color are going to be the oppressed. Nicole.
Let me put a little twist on it. Racism is systemic. You know what system it's in? Your belief system. That's where it's at. If you believe that everything you do and say should be based on the color of your skin, that's the system where the problem is. Your belief system. That's where racism is systemic at. We have digestive systems, we have immune systems, we also have belief systems. And unfortunately, it's in the people's belief system. 95% of everything that every human being does is done subconsciously. So if that is running in the back of your head, the back of your mind, uh, racist thoughts, racist, and not because the word racist is there, it's subconscious. That's where racism is systemic at, in your belief system. If you believe it, that's how you operate, that's how you function. You can do the research. It doesn't matter. Whatever you believe, 95% of it comes out subconsciously. Have you ever, case in point, have you ever been driving and you will literally start driving down Route 70, but you meant to go down 38? You're like, hey, wait, where am I going? You're driving somewhere. Your car is almost like it's taking you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this subconsciously or automatically. It's the same thing. It's taught. Racism is taught. When it's that's the system it's in. That's where the systemic racism is in the belief system, and you are taught beliefs. You are taught your beliefs by whomever raises you. Babysitter, family member, mother, father, aunt, uncle, grandparent, teacher, whomever teaches you, whomever raises you, they raise you on those belief systems. That's where the systemic racism is.
Christine, it sends me back to the famous song from the musical South Pacific. You've got to be carefully taught, Christine.
Dan, oh my God, you and I really are on the same wavelength. I was just about to say that from South Pacific, you have to be taught to hate. What Nicole says is so true. It is something that is, it's not inbred. It's something that is communicated to you from the earliest age. And, you know, I see kids on a playground. I see children of all races playing together. They don't look at the color of the skin of the kid they're throwing a ball to, of the kid that they're running next to. They don't see that, but perhaps their parents do, or perhaps their teachers do. And quite frankly, there is, you know, racism is not just hating someone because of their differences. Racism is also more of a subtlety in that we look at people differently and we take them at a different level based on their skin color or based on their ethnicity. I see that all the time in my practice with immigrants. I see that when immigrants come to the United States, they want to become Americans. They have this sense of identity, of their own ethnic identity, but they don't want to be divided by that. They simply want to become someone different, and that difference is the Americanità, as you might say in Italian. They want to become part of a whole. I think that what we see with CRT, critical race theory, and this deliberate consciousness of our differences, of the difference of our skin color, of our language, accents, ethnicity, traditions, heritage, is something that is truly deleterious, and it is going to cause so much more damage to society than what we have seen up to this point. When I was sitting next to a good friend of mine at the shower this afternoon, she said to me, she said, she's in her 60s, she said, when I was younger, there was bigotry and there was prejudice and it was considered wrong. But today I see so much more division, and I see it under the guise of trying to bring us together, of an awareness of, you know, some groups that are privileged and some groups that are victimized and this and that. And she says it's engendering a lot of hostility where it didn't exist before. And so what Nicole said is incredibly important. We don't come into this world recognizing our differences, how different we are, what separates and divides us. We learn that, and we learn that from a very young age. And what we are doing now in this past year, and what I see happening in a lot of school districts, as Rich was, referring to, is a decision and a deliberate decision to divide us under the guise of making us better, under the guise of equity and equality. And it's really disturbing. And I'm glad that there are voices out there like Nicole's, so eloquent and making a point that people just don't seem to be willing to listen to, and teaching us a lesson that we don't want to learn.
Really a point that should be very obvious. But now what we have is the constantly reminding people of race and our racial differences and our cultural differences, our differences in the way we look at the world or the way we might have arrived at this point. Rick, are you satisfied that they are in fact introducing critical race theory into the Cherry Hill schools?
Well, I know they're introducing it. I mean, it's gonna happen in September. It's almost like a slow drip. But we kind of have to remember who we're following. I mean, this guy, Dr. Kinde, is someone that if you listen to his 1 hour and 20-minute book review, you feel like you're the most depressed. He's a horrible person to listen to. It's just all so negative. I mean, why? What? This guy needs like a Tony Robbins, like Renew. He needs like Shaq O'Neal. This guy should not represent the future of our education, or Charles Barkley or Thomas Sowell. I mean, he's just so negative. I mean, I don't know why anyone isn't calling him out to be a racist in the first place. And he's a racist that claims he's anti-racist, and nobody's willing to say that on video.
I was reading today. I have the Wall Street Journal here, the weekend edition, and I was reading about Derek Bell, the noted academic who passed away some time ago. But there's an article about him, an African American scholar. And he is one of the people who felt that, again, that racism so permeates the fabric of the country that it absolutely cannot be eliminated, that it is, as we say, baked in the cake. So people asked him, they said to him, well, if that's the case, why should people even take any action against racism if there's nothing we can do about it? And he really responded to that with a rather nebulous answer to the effect that, well, you can let them take action and it'll make them feel better, But his own life story, the fact that he came from humble beginnings and became a professor at Harvard and wrote many books and so forth, and was accepted as a renowned scholar, his own life story belied the argument that he was presenting. Okay, but there's a question that comes up in the end of it. If you convince whites that their racism cannot be eradicated, what are they supposed to do? And what are blacks supposed to do with their hard-won victim status? In other words, if you convince white people that they're racist and there's nothing they can do about it, and if you convince black people that they're victims and that's their lot in life, then where are we supposed to go from there? What are we supposed to do? I don't know.
Dan, the end game is to flip our society to socialism. I mean, that's the end game. That's how they're playing it.
Nicole, you're shaking your head. Do you think that there's an effort here to move us towards socialism?
Absolutely. America is a capitalist nation. It's simple. Keep life simple. It is. And for those who come here, they're coming here for that very reason, because they've come from socialist, communist, fascist nations. the difference with, though the difference I should say, with how people who come here to America and become American citizens and how they say live the American dream. The difference is they're thinking, well, I'm trying to get away from something, so let me come and adhere to the ideologies and belief systems and policies that are here, versus someone who just comes in. Most, if my statistics are correct, most people who have come here to America, to this nation, have come and have come legally, um, have adopted that because they know I lived under those type of regimes for so long, or they're protecting their children from being under those type of regimes. They know they have to adopt and adapt. Those who don't, they come in and they want to infiltrate and make this system, the American system, that which is of socialist and communist. And unfortunately, there are too many um, bred Americans who have adopted those ideals and those ideologies from liberal universities, liberal teachers, um, liberal colleges. That's where it's come from. So now we need to, I think, as patriots, as American patriots, because let me sidebar for a moment. I've been to other countries. You're not just going to go there and do what you want to do and get away with it and think, oh, hey, I'm American Nicole and I'm going to this nation and I'm going to just infiltrate. It's harder to infiltrate there than it is here. That's why they come here. That's why they want to come here. Land of the free, home of the brave. So, in that long answer, I think we as patriots, and that's what we are. We're American patriots. We can't let critical race theory continue to take on in our world, in our watch. I'm in Cherry Hill. I'm in Camden County. In my watch, in my conversations, I will never, ever, ever agree with critical race theory and the subtle ways, I guess not so subtle, at this point, subtle ways that they are infiltrating it within our education system. I'm never going to agree with it. Never.
Well said, Christine. You've seen. I mean, you have. For people that don't know, if you don't know by now, I mean, Christine has represented countless numbers of immigrants who come to this country to be American citizens. And I know you're you can't help but be emotional about this, Christine. These people have become friends. They've become part of your family from all over the world. People from all over the world, people of multicolored people, a whole range of colors, and you've seen their desire to become part of the American dream.
Absolutely. What Nicole just said is, as she was talking, I was nodding my head because I've been doing this for 25 years. My practice has shifted primarily to asylum work in the past 10 or so years. I have had refugees from Haiti, from the Duvalier, the Papa Doc and the Baby Doc Duvalier regimes. I have had refugees from Albania under Enver Hoxha, socialist paradise. I've had refugees from the former Soviet Union, had clients who were refugees from Romania under Ceausescu. These are all totalitarian regimes. Some were worse than others, but the vast majority came here because of their desire to be free and not to be told how to live their lives, not to have a philosophical yoke put around their necks. Today, I see people coming from for other reasons, but from other totalitarian states which cannot control gang violence, such as Central American countries like Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador. in every single case where you are dealing with a refugee or an asylum applicant, someone who is coming in and seeking a better life, so many of them are doing it because of what is happening in their home countries. And a lot of that has to do with a creeping sense of, we call it socialism. Socialism is a theory, a philosophy. I'm not so worried about the idea of socialism. People put socialism out there as if it were the worst thing in the world. It's not great, that idea that we all share in the benefits, and it's like to each to each person according to his needs, from each person according to his abilities, and all that stuff. That philosophy in a vacuum doesn't necessarily bother me. What bothers me is the way that men and women put it into practice. And I see it, for example, in Venezuela. We never had people from Venezuela coming here seeking asylum. Venezuela was one of the richest, most prosperous countries in the world because of all of their oil reserves. But because of what Hugo Chavez did, and now what Nicolas Maduro is doing, his successor, and because of the fact that they kept Guaido, who was the lawfully elected president, but who was being kept out of that because of election fraud, they have so many Venezuelans who are coming into the country, and they're coming legally on tourist visas, and they are seeking asylum in the United States because they cannot have good lives, because their private property is being nationalized, because they don't have enough to eat. And that's why the government issued TPS, temporary protected status, for many Venezuelans. And that was actually done under President Trump in the very, very last days of his administration. But the point that Nicole makes is an extremely important one. People do not come to the United States to live under a totalitarian regime where our children are taught to hate each other because of our skin color, because of their diverse skin colors, where people are taught to feel as if they have a specific privilege, and other people are taught to be victims and always to want and demand and need and have grievance. They don't do that. Immigrants come here because they see from the outside what a great country this is, something that people in this country have a very difficult time realizing. And you know what? I want to say something. Stacey Abrams talks about election fraud, and people talk about how elections have been corrupted. And there are problems with our election systems in Pennsylvania. We saw it happen in the last election. I saw it happen to me when I tried to vote against Larry Krasner in the DA's race, and they almost tried to stop me from voting. But it is vastly different to say, what's happening in the United States is vastly different from what happened to so many of my asylum clients who went and tried to vote in Iraq, for example, in Albania, for example, in Pakistan, for example, and had the teeth beaten out of their heads, had their bones broken because they tried to vote. So when I hear Americans talking about how the vote is being challenged and people are being stopped from voting, I think back to what my dad did in 1967 in Mississippi, when he went down and registered Black voters, the people who were being stopped from voting, hoses being turned on them, Jim Crow laws. And when they try and say that today, when Stacey Abrams and her crew come out today and say that we are living in a totalitarian country which is trying to stop people from voting, you can hear the anger in my voice, because I see people, my father saw people 50, 60 years ago, and I see people today coming from countries where that's actually happening. And it is a bill of goods that they are trying to sell to us, that this country is the worst country in the world, or this country is a country that crushes our rights. This is a country that every other human being in the world that is suffering under the yoke of totalitarianism is literally killing themselves, crawling on their hands and knees to get to. And I'm sorry for that little lecture, but Nicole really reminded me of why I do the work that I do, and why we really are a country of promise, and we cannot allow ourselves to allow the leftist progressives to turn it into the type of country that my clients are fleeing.
Rick, don't you almost want to invite Christine into some of the Cherry Hill schools so she can talk about some of the people that she has represented and their stories.
Excellent idea.
Wouldn't you
Because all
love?
we're getting is a one-sided view.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you love for her to come in and speak to one of your kids' classes about the kind of work, and then they can question her, they can ask her questions about the people she represents, the kind of work that she does, and why these people are so desperate to want to come to America that they would risk so much. Don't you think that'd be great? I wonder how Dr. Malash would feel about setting up a program like that. The superintendent of Cherry Hill Schools.
Yeah, excellent. I would love it.
You think you could convince the Cherry Hill Schools to do something like
They
this?
wouldn't do that. That makes too much sense, Dan. Makes too much sense.
Well, maybe it isn't connected enough to some kind of renowned scholar. But Christine, the kind of thing that you're talking about, and I was fortunate enough as a young person, a very, very young person, I might say, to march with Dr. King and be part, to some extent, Christine, of your father's generation. And I can attest to the fact that there were very, very high ideals and aspirations. And we were very cognizant of the fact at that time that people wanted to come here to pursue the American dream, right? I mean, come on.
And Dan, I know you were a Democrat, and I know you were a liberal, like my dad, but that has morphed so drastically and tragically into something that is irrecognizable today. The Democrats of today are not the Democrats of the Kennedy era, the Bobby Kennedy era. It is something completely different, and it's become a party of grievance. And I mean, I admire the work that you did, Dan, so much with McGovern, and then with Kennedy, and working in Camden schools when it really was difficult to be a teacher in inner city schools. And I think we've lost sight of the fact that people of goodwill, really good people, have been marginalized these days because they're not perfect. They don't fit that perfect stereotype of the woke of Dr. what Rick was talking about, Dr. Kendi, the book about white rage. I forget the name of the woman who wrote that book. I haven't read that book, but the constant haranguing of one group and blaming them for the problems of every other group in the world, and it's tiresome. It's really tiresome, and it saddens me knowing the promise of Dr. King's movement and his sacrifice is being turned into this.
Well, I think the last thing that Dr. King wanted to impress upon the Black community that he led and that he so inspired, it seems to me the last thing he wanted to impress upon them was that they were victims. It seems to me his whole philosophy, all of his teaching, was that you should be proud of yourself. You are not a victim. You have made remarkable contributions to this society. You have every right to be an equal part of it. The nation is richer for you and your contributions. There is nothing that you and we together cannot achieve. I mean, maybe I've gotten this wrong, but it seems to me, having lived through the era of Dr. King and having been just a very, very small part of his movement, this is not something I read in history books. This is something that I lived. It seems to me that this is what he was all about. Okay.
Well, Dan, there's a critical race theory right there. So Dr. King's whole fight was civil rights. We are human beings. We're not based on the color of our skin, but the content of our character. So, gee, what a theory. Let's go after making sure we're all treated equally as the human race. no matter what color of the crayon we are painted in the crayon box. It doesn't matter. There's a critical race theory. What about going after or believing for the human beings that are babies, that are fetuses, that are being murdered over 63 million since the Roe v. Wade decision in 73? There's a critical race theory, the human race. I love something that Tiger Woods' dad told him in an interview years ago on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And you can Google it, YouTube it. Tiger was explaining his heritage, being African American, Black, and Asian. So he said Blasian. So Oprah was, in my opinion, for those who watch this, in my opinion, race baiting. That's my opinion. Did everyone hear that? Okay. About this, his how he was raised, and people look at him as Black, and you can't get away from that. And I love how the camera started going to his dad, because his dad's face is like this. So she's asking these questions to Tiger, and he's explaining, I'm not going to deny my heritage. And Oprah begins to ask the dad, well, how did you raise him to, what did you teach him about race when he was growing up? What did you teach him about race? I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember it exactly. His dad looked at her and said, I teach him there's one race, the human race. That's it. Gee, if we could remember that, this critical race theory could be about how detrimental things have been, educations, ideologies have been to the human race. How about that? There's a theory. How about that?
I think you said it. I think you said it, and it touched upon that issue I know that's so important to you, Christine, and that is all these uh, Black and brown and all of the little children that were never given a chance because they were murdered in the womb.
That's right.
I saw a show last week, Dan, and Nicole and Rick, on the American experience. It was the eugenics movement. It was about the eugenics movement in the United States. It started in the right around World War I, right after World War I. And it's very clear, and they make it clear, even though they tried to sort of insulate Margaret Sanger from claims of being a racist. But the fact is, Planned Parenthood, birth control, and the eugenics movement was established to eliminate and to at the very least drastically limit the births of children of color, Black children, children of immigrants, Italian children, children from the Mediterranean. They did not want a certain class of child to be born, and they figured that the way to do this, you can't kill the children, obviously. So what you do is you sterilize the women who will have those children, and then that morphed into the modern abortion movement, the modern so-called reproductive choice movement. But it's very important to understand that it was not based in issues of privacy, as the Supreme Court tries to, or tried in a very, very poorly written decision, make it seem. It was based on an understanding that some lives matter more than other lives. And the whole Black Lives Matter movement, the Black lives that matter are the Black lives that are not given. Every Black life matters, but why are we ignoring the fact that so many of the Black lives that matter are being destroyed before they even have an opportunity to see the light of day? Reverend Alveda King, who is one of, I think, Martin Luther King's niece, is a very strong pro-life advocate. And she said that one of the reasons that she became a pro-life advocate is because of the example of her uncle, who talked about the dignity of all lives and the dignity of Black lives. And abortion was one way to make sure that there weren't that many Black lives and there weren't that many immigrant lives. And it's something that we really need to emphasize, especially in this day and age.
And I love that. Oops, sorry, Dan.
Yeah, go
Hey,
ahead. No,
Dan.
no,
I
go
love,
ahead,
I
Nicole.
love that we're having this conversation because I think I was telling Rick the other day, maybe, as he was helping us out with some things on our campaign. We keep saying we don't want to address the elephant in the room. Listen, I don't care if you live in a mansion or if you live in a one bedroom or one room apartment. You can't ignore the elephant in the room. You can't ignore an elephant. So address it. Have the conversations. And to your point, Christine, Margaret Sanger, back to what the point I was making about her belief systems. Well, look at her history, about her childhood and how her mother treated her. So that became the birthing of Planned Parenthood came out of a belief system of wounds that she had from her relationship with her mother. Again, that's where the racism is in the belief systems. If I, as an African American woman, walk into a store and I automatically believe or think, oh, they're looking at me funny because I'm black. That's on me. I believe that. I'm so ready to tell someone that they're being a racist. I believe that. If I believe, well, of course, it came this way, or it came that way, or it didn't come this way, it didn't come that way, because I'm black. That's me. I believe it. So if I believe like that, everything else stems from that foundation, from the trunk of that tree. That's where it's coming from. And everybody wants to blame. Are there racist people in the world? Of course there are. And they come in every color: white, black, yellow, whatever. Racist is a belief system. It's what you believe. That's what it is. So I just wanted to bring that out to your point, Christine, about Margaret. Um, yeah, we need to have these conversations, and we can't be afraid. Now, something I will say, and it's been an hour, Dan. I think I'm going to be leaving soon. I think Rick told you. I hope he did.
But Dan, don't go, Dan. One last thing. Go ahead.
Um, One of the things as African Americans, we because of the societal beliefs, and you can't erase history. We would all be um, wrong. Let's just call it what it is, to say that things have not happened to the Jewish community, the African American community, the Italian community, the Asian community. We're not. That's not the point. I think that as the African community, if we can tap into our resiliency,
Absolutely.
we're extremely resilient, because of so many things that our ancestors have dealt with. I tell people I had this conversation, and I'll let it go. I feel like I'm going off on a tangent, but someone said to me, um, I was in a conversation. They said, "Well, we were in a conversation with about 16 people." They said, "Well, we're all immigrants." When it was my turn to talk, I said, "I'm not an immigrant. I was born here. My parents were born here. My grandparents were born here, and my great grandparents were born here. So stop telling me that this country, that we're all immigrants and things of that nature. No, I'm not. I'm not. I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I moved to New Jersey when I was 14. So no. Again, you see how that belief system, that ideology creeps in, it creeps in. So I just wanted to bring that. I went off on a tangent a little bit, Dan. I'm so sorry.
Excellent.
I love
Excellent. Thank
Nicole, and
you.
now I know why I love her. She's got that Philly spirit. She just got it from birth.
She does. Rick wants to say something.
One
Rick,
one last thing.
yeah, that's
For
okay. Yeah, take your time.
for a 5-year outlook on uh, our what do you want to call it? Our fight against CRT, for a 5-year outlook. What we need to watch for is what books that are going in through K through K-12. We need to know what books are in for the next 5 years. We want to show both sides. We want to show all races. We don't want to show one race over another race in our education system. We also have to be careful about, like, advisory. There's a course called advisory course. It's kind of free time. Like, what are our teachers teaching us in that class? And then we also have to watch out for what training our teachers are getting. Because right now we know in Cherry Hill that they're getting cultural proficiency and equity training. and that already has anti-racist training in it. So are they going to switch the training to this Kinde model? I hope not.
Rick, we are relying on people like you and Nicole to be vigilant about this and to organize other people, And I think this is critically important, to bring people with you to these meetings and so forth, to ask the questions that need to be asked and rightly hold public officials accountable. When public officials feel that they don't have to worry about an election, they don't have to worry about their jobs, everything is cut and dry, they don't have to worry, they are not accountable to the extent that they should be, because it's just natural. Nicole?
They're not public servants. They're not public servants.
Right.
The very title. You serve the public and you serve publicly. So that you're not a public servant. You have a hidden agenda, and you want to advance your hidden agenda, your ideologies, your belief systems. So they're not public servants. They are elected officials and some appointed. Because people didn't elect them in, they got appointed.
And more often than not, they need to be reminded by people like the two of you and other people involved and active citizens. Hey, wait a minute. You work for me. Remember me? Whether you like me or not, whether you agree with me or not, whether you share my views or not, you work for me, and I have a right to, and I will hold you accountable. This is very important. This, of course, this is a whole nother discussion. We're not going to get to it tonight, but this, as you know, Christine came up with that citizen in the Pennsbury School District in Bucks County, and he has, that thing has gone viral. He's made international news, who got up there and reminded the school board exactly what I just said. You work for me, and you have no right to silence me or snuff me out.
Right.
And I'm not going to let you do it. You're not going to do it.
We need those people to stand up. We need Nicole. We need Rick. We need the people, the women in Radnor Township who fought back against, unfortunately unsuccessfully, but who were loud, strong voices like Kate Hart at the Radnor Township School District that wanted to call their mascot racist and bigoted. We need people at the grassroots level to get out there, because the message isn't getting out at the higher levels. So we need to start at the very, the schools are really the places where things are done, where actions are taken, because we're dealing with children, and the hand that rocks the cradle or the hand that writes on the blackboard rules the world. So we need to make sure that we are loud and proud and constantly in the faces of these groups and school boards that think that they can silence us.
Yes, and I want to end. I want to bring this to a conclusion, because our hour is just about up, by reminding everyone of what Nicole said, because I think it's very profound and very important, which is that if racism is systemic, the system that it's in, it's not necessarily the justice system or the system of government or the societal system or the cultural system. It's in your belief system. It's in you. And it starts at an early age, and it's what's in your mind. And I think that was one of the most important observations of the evening. And I thank you, Nicole. I thank you, Rick. Christine, great seeing you again.
Great seeing you. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you,
Rick. This was a great conversation. Danny, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dan.
My pleasure. And folks, we hope to be back again next Sunday night and we're going to continue conversations just like this. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.
Take care.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Oh, where'd Nicole go?